Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 20 of Chihayafuru, and last episode, Taichi got the short end of the stick, surprising no one, but I feel bad for Taichi. I think that the mangaka is giving Taichi a really hard time now at this point in the series. His better days are ahead of him. He will get his cosmic karma. We just have to suffer alongside him until it's his time to shine. That's all there is to it. So I did have somebody in the comments ask if I would do, like with episodes 16 and 17, a two-parters again. And I don't know. I don't want this series to end, but we're nearing the end of season 1, and so I don't think I will do any more two-parters until after season 1. But I may get a hold of my moderators and say, hey, are there any, kind of like what I do with Natsume's Book of Friends, I might ask the moderators if there are any like two-parter episodes they would recommend. I don't want to hear it from the comments down below. I'm sure that the moderators know Chihayafuru inside and out, so they'll have some good suggestions to me. But I might start that with season 2 just to see like if there were any cliffhanger episodes. We've not really had a lot of cliffhanger episodes. 18 and 19 were kind of tie-in episodes you could have watched together, but they weren't really... It wasn't like a crazy cliffhanger that I'm like, oh no, I didn't see that together. But there might be some in the future. So that's a good point to bring up. So I'm glad that they commented about that. The only comment I actually have is for episodes 16 and 17. Fornoda is back. Fornoda actually responded in episode 15 with the poem meaning for that episode. And I was like, well, I've already talked about it in my last video, but I will definitely reference episodes 16 and 17. So there's quite a lot to talk about, so let's dive into this. They say for episode 16, the poem of the day, Autumn Leaves, and World Offers No Escape, episode 17. Episode 16's poem is poem 26, written by Fujiwara no Tadahira, a Japanese noble who had a very involved life in politics. His descendants would go on to establish the Fujiwara clan as a political power through intermarriage with the imperial family. Interesting. So translated by Mostau. Oh, autumn leaves on the peak of Ogira Hill. If you have a heart, I would that you would wait for one more royal progress. Episode 17's is poem 83 by Fujiwara no Shunzei, a poet nobleman known for his innovations in waka poetic form and for his work on waka anthologies. Shunzei's influence in the Hyakunin Isshu also extends beyond his own work, as his son, Fujiwara no Taika, was considered as one of the greatest poets in Japanese history and was the main compiler of the Hyakunin Isshu. Taika wrote poem 97 as well, while the authors of poems 81, 86, and 87 were associated to Shunzei. 89 and 98 studied under him, 94 was another son of his, and 79 was directly in opposition to him. His relational tree in the Hyakunin Isshu extends far. Nepotism? Never heard of ya! Oh, that's interesting, though. That's super interesting. Okay. Curious. I'll be excited when we get to those poems. The poem is translated by Mostau as, within this world, there is indeed no path. Even deep in this mountains, I have entered, heart set. I seem to hear the deer cry. Mostau explains that the third phrase, and I'm going to get this right, is a pivot word. The words that precede it and follow it play off of the double meaning of omoi iru, to set one's heart on, and iru, to enter. He goes on to say that the melancholy of the poem seems to be ambiguous, whether it be morality or decline in the Heian period. That said, for us, this was the poem that Chihaya called out to Nishida with while he was practicing tennis. I'm not a big fan of the usage of this poem, as it feels very depressed for an episode which offers promise. The only interpretation I have of the poem is that after all this time, Taichi's heart is still fixated on Chihaya, and there's no other path for him but to continue after her. And then another user on that thread chimed in with, I'm honestly hard-pressed to find ways that this poem relates to the episode. You could maybe say that Chihaya needs to retreat and reflect on new ways to win matches, but that's somewhat of a stretch. I think it could relate to Taichi going out of his way to Kanazawa to find a path forward, and even then, still finding Nishida, the stag, along with Retro-kun, who are also trying to get a step ahead. I kind of like that. I mean, I like the idea of the poem in episode 17 being centered around Taichi. Even though it's very much a reflective episode for all of the characters, especially Chihaya, I think it does tie maybe more into Taichi. And as Foroda has said, Taichi's heart is absolutely fixated on Chihaya, even though nobody around him seems to believe that he could possibly have a crush on Chihaya. She's all obsessed with Karuda. She's not even interested in romance. What can we do, Taichi? What can we do? So I'm really excited for this episode. Thank you all so much for your comments and your kind words. I really am loving this series. I can't believe we only have 5 episodes left of season 1. It's going by really quickly. So yeah. But with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into episode 20 of Chihayafuru. And we're going to be doing that here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see you all on the other side. Every time I go to watch this series and I start an episode like this and I think, oh, it's just going to be like a lighthearted, not filler, but just kind of a lighthearted episode where I figured Taichi's going to go off to this other tournament and try to win, and maybe he'll win the tournament and come back and it'll be like a really good moment or whatever. And no, instead it goes off the rails. I wondered if I figured Arata would show up at the qualifier. I did not expect Arata, until we started getting into this episode, to show up at the tournament Taichi was at. But when Taichi went off by himself, I was like, ooh, Taichi's gone by himself. The others aren't with him. Is Arata gonna come and show up? Because that would be really fun if Taichi was there and then Arata was there to kind of throw him off his game, because this mangaka is just sadistic against Taichi. Oh my god. But there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about that reason. It's cosmic karma. We're going to talk about it as we go. But yeah, so wow, what an episode. I never expect these episodes to be as insane as they are, and then they are, and it's just so good. But yeah, so Chihaya is a girl who devotes 175%, if not more, to Karuda, right? But if you just keep focusing only on Karuda, you're going to start to neglect in other aspects of your life. And it's like, it's good that she's so hyper focused on it, but at the same time, she is, you can't get so hyper focused on training that you forget about sleep or nutrition or other things, right? And it's so easy, I feel, for us to get kind of fixated on one thing and excelling at that one thing that we start to let other things in our life slowly fall apart. And I think it happens to a lot of us, whether it's, whether it's content creators, whether it's teachers, whether it's people that are doing that are getting so far into their art, if they're artists or whatever the case may be. You can get really hyper fixated on a point of your life and forget about the rest of it. And I think that Chihaya is so determined to face Shinobu again. The funny part is, even though Chihaya clearly cares about Taichi and she clearly cares about Arata, I don't think either of these men nor her teammates fully understand how insanely obsessed Chihaya is with Shinobu. Shinobu is taking up a lot of acreage in Chihaya's mind, rent-free, and I don't think even Shinobu knows that she's taking up acreage. But I don't think it's so funny, because I don't think that Shinobu knows how much of Chihaya's mind she lives in rent-free. And conversely, I don't think that Chihaya knows how much. I think when we go back to Shinobu, it's going to be the same thing. Shinobu is going to have little mini Chihayas running around like inside out in there. She's going to be like, all I can think about is that girl, that strawberry blonde wench. And it's like, So I think both these ladies live rent-free in each other's minds to an insane degree that no one else in this series quite understands. And it gets me excited because I really like Chihaya and Shinobu's rivalry, and it's just started, and I'm really excited because this series knows how to do character work to see what they do with that dynamic, because I think there's so much you can do with that. But I could have brought Whiteboard-kun out to talk about ships, but I feel like once we get to the qualifier, we're probably gonna have to bring Whiteboard-kun out for that, I'm sure. And I feel like that's the next episode. It would logistically make sense for us to have episodes 21, 22, 23, 24, and I think there's 25 in this series. 5 episodes for the qualifiers. Plenty of time. Plenty of time to do that. We even got a little hint at who the master could be, I think. So we're going to go back through that. I'm like, ooh, okay. But yeah, I had not even thought about the idea of using the lines on the mat to determine how far back you could sit or arrange your cards. That's kind of ingenious. That's kind of impressive. And I'm so excited that Chihaya is thinking about like how many lines she can move when she plays Kana and Tsutomu versus Nishida and Taichi. And I like Chihaya saying she doesn't want to rush herself. Don't be hasty, Master Mary. So Chihaya is getting a little bit more calmed down, a little bit centered. She's talking about timing of 3 and 4 syllable words. Like, she has a plan, which is great for Chihaya. Tsutomu brings out the very important notion of if she worked this hard on her studying or had a tenth of this focus on her studying, she'd be fine. But here we are. So yeah, I mean, Shinobu and Chihaya, I love it. And we're going to talk about Shinobu a little bit more later. But Chihaya is bound and determined to beat her when she faces her again. I do like, I talked about in the reaction, but there's, Kana is just like, has her hands in front of her, being very dainty as one would expect. Tsutomu has his water like, she's going to fail. Nishida's like, I'm glad I got this milk bun. And then Taichi, I love his body language of just being, Taichi is in a constant state of concern. For Chihaya, as he probably should be in some regards. But yeah, if she focused, then her grades would be 5th from the bottom. Taichi kind of just looks at Tsutomu like, hey, don't talk bad about her, but also, damn it, you're right. Look, Taichi's like, don't talk about my potential girlfriend that way. I'm so glad, thank God, we finally got it out in the open that Arata asked Taichi about being with Chihaya, and Taichi's like, no, I'm not. We're going to talk about that scene, but I'm so glad that's out in the open now. I'm so glad we don't have to worry about that being a thing. So good. Some people try to spoil that like way back so soon. I was like, I was going to get to it eventually, but anyway. So then we have the OP. Oh man. Now, I do like the Empress putting her foot down and saying, look, Chihaya, you're class A rank already. You're class A rank. You've been devoting a large portion of time to practicing for this tournament. You need to take a break and focus on your studies. And there have been other sports anime that I've watched that have kind of done something similar to this, where the main character or the main duo, what I like about Chihaya is that it's 5 competitors that are the main characters and not like 2. Like, for example, in Haikyuu, this isn't spoiling anything. I won't spoil the plot. But in Haikyuu, Kageyama and Shoyo Hinata are not the best students, and they're kind of like a duo in that regard. And then in other series, you have a couple characters that fall into the same problem where they're not the most intellectual in the classroom. And so it is a common trope in sports anime that at some point, usually fairly early on in the series, there's going to be an episode where they're planning to go to a tournament or they're planning to play in a tournament and their grades hold them back. And so then they have to do something about it. The thing that's so funny to me is that in Haikyuu, for example, I'm not going to spoil when or where it happens, but this sort of scenario happens to Shoyo and Kageyama, and they just kind of do it and then get out of it, and it's like, okay. And in another series that I watched, it was like they somehow got out of it or they worked around it. Here, the Empress is like, no, you're going to stay and study. Now, granted, Chihaya still left, but I'm glad that Tsutomu got on her because we'll get to it in the episode. But I'm glad that the Empress is like, you're going to be held back. You need to study. Now, this one line is something that as an academic advisor for a school, it makes me kind of like my eye twitch. And we're going to talk about it just briefly. She's like, I realize you're dedicated to Karuda, but you need to start thinking about your future. So, okay, I do want to talk about that line because, one, before the comments come in, I am speaking from a Western perspective, of course, as an educator, as an academic advisor, from my perspective. But also, I do understand I've watched enough anime to know how the Japanese school system works and the precedence and prestige and importance they place upon students choosing their education, deciding which path they go on. I know it's a cultural thing. I know the history, blah, blah, blah. My point is that, in my opinion, I find that I think it's important to point out that this is a very difficult conversation to have with 17-year-olds. Just from experience, because I think that we sometimes normalize across cultures, not only in Japan, but in the US as well. We certainly are like demanding it in middle schools and high schools in the US that students have their life decided before they're 18. I'm like, they can't even vote yet. They can't rent a car, but they're supposed to know what they're going to do for the next 40 years of their life. I mean, 30 if you're lucky, if you're not tier 2 in the education system. But, for the next 30 years of their life, for the third of their life at least, they have to know what they're going to do before their first third of their life is over. To me, it's kind of, in a lot of ways, an unrealistic expectation. And I know from the US perspective, I knew I wanted to teach by the time I was in 8th grade. So I'm kind of an outlier. I'm one of those people that did kind of know what they wanted to do. But my pathway even changed. I was going to be a high school teacher, and then I got more deeper into that profession and decided that I didn't want to deal with the parents. So I liked teaching high school students. I subbed it for years, but the parents are like, God, at least in the US. So I didn't want to mess with it. And I changed my career plans, but I was in my early 20s when I did that. And with Chihaya, I kind of wanted Chihaya to stand up and say that she wants to be a professional Karuda player, because that seems to be like what she enjoys. But I don't know, like, what is the possibility of doing that professionally. So for example, in March comes in like a Lion, which is the series that came before this in ping pong. In that series, you can be a professional shogi player, and you can make a pretty decent living off of that as a full-time job. I don't know, are there professional Karuda players is the question, because it's shogi is pretty much played in other countries other than Japan, but are there professional Karuda players? It says for competitive Karuda, I want to go down here and see the media coverage, Chihayafuru is pretty popular and has taken it to there. There's about 50 tournaments a year, which are counted towards the rank of Dan. Local tournaments can alter this ranking. They're free to enter regardless of age and gender. Some tournaments may limit this for certain ages, gender, and class of players. Does it talk about any... here we go. It says there are several associations for Karuda players. It's very popular in Japan, but there are very few competitive Karuda players. There are currently 10,000 to 20,000 competitive players in Japan. 2,000 are ranked above C class and registered in the All Japan Karuda Association. That's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. 20,000 players with only 2,000 above C class? That makes the A rank seem pretty impressive, considering that's, less than 2,000 people. That's not a lot for the entire country. It really isn't. It said in 2012, there was an international tournament with players from the US, China, South Korea, New Zealand, and Thailand. Interesting. And there's a national tournament with, since 1955, the Queen title started. It started in 1957. I want to, how many are professional shogi, just out of curiosity to know, the number difference. How many are there that play professionally with shogi? I wonder if they have an actual rank or number. I'm so curious. How many shogi players professionally in Japan? Okay. There are approximately 170 professional shogi players. Okay, but they make a living off of it. They're actually making money off of that. It says, according to the Japan International Transport and Tourism Institute in the US, shogi, it says that when we get down to the competitive aspect, there are approximately 6 to 10 million amateur players in Japan, but only about 170 professional players. Holy shit. Okay. Well, that's a huge difference from Karuda to shogi. Okay. So there's not really any professional Karuda players that are making a living off of it like shogi. So that's all to say. I can understand why the Empress is like, Chihaya, you're obsessed with Karuda and that's great. But again, going back to what Tsutomu kind of points out and what we talk about in this episode, you can't let this one aspect about your identity consume your entire life or everything else is going to fall to the wayside. So even though it is a tall order to ask Chihaya to have her future planned out by the time she's 17, I do think that the Empress means well. And I do think it's important that Chihaya doesn't forget that, Karuda is a great hobby and it's a great pastime and it's a great thing that you've dedicated a part of your life to. But don't forget what comes after. You need money to enter the Karuda tournaments. You need to be Taichi talked about that one tournament that she couldn't afford. He's like, you need money to travel. You need money to play in the tournament. There is a little bit of a capitalist angle in our society worldwide that requires you have some way to fund what you want to do. So I do think that she is right to ask Chihaya to start thinking about things. Meanwhile, Chihaya's like, Queen, Eastern Qualifier, Yoshino Tournament, Shinobu-chan. Shinobu-chan is on there. And it's like, oh, what's recently been on her mind? Not studying. And then it says food. Food comes up there in a little word. And then it says first appearance, future. The future has not been on her mind at all. And now it's this tiny little thing. What's even bigger is the new daddy bear. Girl, spoken like a true 17-year-old. Mm-hmm. I don't blame you, girl. I was, I did think about my future when I was at that age, but I had a lot of lofty, ambitious goals. Like before I wanted to be a teacher, and then there was a brief stint, like my junior year of high school, where I'm like, I'm going to be an animator. And then my parents were like, that animation school you want to go to costs $40,000 a year. No, we poor. And I was like, okay, never mind. But yeah, so I do like that the Empress is like, look, you don't need to go to the tournament. Tsutomu's going to tutor you. That's it. But she's like, don't do this to me. I do love that her hair gets up in her bangs get up in a little ponytail clip. That's so cute. Very 90s. Meanwhile, Nishida is like, I'm failing English and math. Please help me. And Kana's like, I'll stick around and help, even though she's clearly got her life in order. And then Taichi, looking cool as a cucumber, with his hands slung over the bag, slung over, hanging out the doorway. He's like, I'll go by myself, and you all can stay here and study. One thing that's talked about with Taichi, we'll get to it later on this episode with Tsutomu when he talks about his grades, right? So now this one line gets offered by Nishida, and I'm glad it came back, where apparently if you place second twice in a Class B tournament, you can technically, by the rules, upgrade to Class A. It's kind of like we called them in competitive speech, we called them legs. And if you had so many legs, like, if you place second at a tournament, that's a leg. If you play first, that's a leg. If you place third, that's a leg. If you broke into finals, then got like the top six, usually. The top six got a leg in the final round. And in order for us to go to our national tournament, you had to get so many legs, and it had to be under a certain number. So it's kind of like golf, where you wanted under par. The smaller the number, the better. So I think at the time, the legs were 5. So if you had a speech, you had to have 3 scores that totaled less than 7. So you could get like first, second, third, first. But then you could mix and match the numbers, but it had to be under 7 for those 3 scores, which meant you had to do really good with that event to qualify for nationals, which is doable, but not easy. But Taichi is challenging himself. He's like, no, Chihaya and Arata made it to Class A by winning. And if I'm going to join them, I'm going to do it by the same means. And I respect that with Taichi. Taichi gets all my respect because he is not going to play the easy route. And I'm like, that speaks so much to his character. We're going to talk about it later on. Don't worry. But it speaks so much to his character because I feel like a lot of what the mangaka is doing with Taichi is cosmic karma for his wealthy, privileged upbringing. And I don't mean that on a socioeconomic level, although you could argue that. But what I'm saying is Taichi from the beginning, even though I wouldn't call his parents like the best support system, especially his mom, Taichi had always had, he has good grades. He works hard for his good grades, which we're going to talk about with Satomu later on. Don't worry, I'm going to come back to all this. I got to keep it in chronological order. But I will say, Taichi knows that he is privileged. He knows that. He has a nice house. He has a supportive family to an extent. He has money out the wazoo. He can afford to go to these tournaments that a lot of other people can't go to. And he is able and is afforded time. That's one of the biggest things, is that a lot of people who are less privileged, they don't get like the time to practice. They have to go to a part-time job, or they have to take care of a family. So, you think of Sakura a few episodes ago. She probably can't practice Karuda as much as she'd like because she has 2 kids. And then you have Arata, whose family is not well off. He has to have a job working at the bookstore because he needs money and to support his family. So he can't practice Karuda then. So he has to do that on his off time. And Taichi doesn't have a job because he doesn't need a job. His family's supporting him financially. So, and his family has money. They don't need him to work. So I feel like it speaks a lot to Taichi's character that he doesn't want to cheat the system, because he's like, how is that fair? How could I stand up here and say I'm class A out of a technicality when I have all of the chances in the world that so many people don't have to get in this same position? So I respect Taichi from coming from a place of privilege and fighting just as hard as everyone else and not taking the easy route because it's convenient and right there in front of him. Like so many other things are for him. He's like, I'm going to do this the correct way and the way everybody else is. I respect him so much. And they're like, oh, well, have you asked the academy? He's like, no. He's like, he said I had to win a tournament first, which is Dr. Harada's rule, and I respect it. And he's like, our society is the same. And he's like, so when I told everybody I won, and then Nishida stops. He stops for a moment, doesn't say anything, because his friends are like, oh, that's awesome. You say it was all thanks to because he says, he's like, oh, he says, it was awesome. You say, he's like, it's all thanks to the coach and the other players at the society. And then he gets smacked by the grandpa. And he's like, don't make me mad, boy. Your friends are the reason the old you hates to lose. And that's back. Isn't that right? So Nishida kind of stops and doesn't say anything. But I think Taichi kind of gets maybe a little bit of what he means. And then when he turns around, he's like, I can only advance if I win. So that's what I'll have to do. When he's like, I'm off. When he turns around, that look that Taichi has on his face, he looks kind of glum because, he's sort of the only one that hasn't leveled up yet and everybody else has. But he also looks kind of murderous in that moment. I'm like, ooh. So anyway, we go to the tournament. And meanwhile, Chihaya has her little daddy bear watch, which is super cute. She's like, treat this like a match and memorize hard. And she's like, but I'd rather be at a match. So then Taichi sees Harada at the tournament, and he's like, oh, well, have you seen him? And then there he is. And of course, Tomo's like, where is Chihaya? And as we would expect, she ran off. She's like, I'm going to cheer for Taichi. Sorry, tutor. That fool! And I think that Tsutomu has every right to be mad because, I thought he went very easy on Chihaya. He really did. Because that not only is her shirking away from her responsibilities, and I like on the phone it says I think it says it's October 10th or November 10th, one of the two. I think it's October 10th, right? That it's not only her shirking from her responsibilities and running away, which he's like, don't do that, but also it makes Tsutomu look bad because the Empress tasks Tsutomu with tutoring her. And if she doesn't tutor with him, it makes him look bad as well. Her actions reflect on people that are not just herself. So I'm glad that she apologizes and they kind of straighten that out. But girl, this episode was just, this mangaka knows how to build tension and knows how to build your expectation and just gets that roller coaster going. I'm like, oh my God. So Harada and Arata's mentors are besties, rivals, but besties. Of course they are. Of course they are. It's been ages since you last came to Kanto. He's like, oh, my knees have been killing me, but I had to come along. And I like that Taichi and Arata back away, and they're like, oh, they're rivals and friends. Oh. Also, I'm sorry. The mangaka doing the light strawberry hair of Taichi, the black hair of Arata. They look like raspberries and blackberries. The blue eyes, the golden brown eyes. The contrast is delicious. And he's like, oh, Dr. Kuriyama and Dr. Arata have been rivals since they were young. Uh-huh. Yeah, and he's like, oh, he's the director of the Nagumo Society where I'm registered. And then they both look at each other and they both have like a little blush. Look, if Chihaya was with Shinobu, if the mangaka decided that, you know what, the love triangle's too much, why have her choose between these two guys? Why not let her have Shinobu and let these two guys have themselves? If the mangaka decided to do that, I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't complain one damn bit. I don't think the mangaka is going to do that. I don't think the mangaka is going to make the Sayuri. I don't think she's going to make the Sayaoi, which #tears. I can ship both Shinobu and Chihaya, and I can ship Arata and Taichi, which I would like to actively. I think she's going to make Chihaya either choose one of these two young men or neither of them, but I don't think she'll have her with Shinobu. So, I mean, Hiroshi's a catch. Y'all, Hiroshi, I could simp and stand for Hiroshi all damn day. That college boy, I could do so, right? I'm not his teacher. I'm allowed. So, yes. These two, episodes like this, Taichi and Arata, it's just so good. So then they go, and then Arata, I'm glad Taichi calls him out, but there's a reason why Arata gives it to him. He's like, here. He's like, I was mistaken. I thought you would be in the Class A tournament today. I don't think that Arata meant to be shady with that comment. I don't think he meant to be shady. I think he was genuinely saying, I expected you to be with us because you're good. I feel like Arata meant it as a compliment, because Arata does not strike me as a shady guy. He's just not. He's a precious angel bean who is like so sweet and innocent, and he doesn't know what to do. He's a social, awkward little bean, and he's sweet. And I think what he meant to Taichi was a compliment, saying, oh, well, you're a great player. I expected you to be competing with us today. I think that's what he meant. But Taichi is a little bit insecure right now about the fact that he's not Class A and that he's the only one that hasn't leveled up of his group. And so I feel like the way that Taichi took it was that, oh, because I failed and I'm not good enough. That's literally how I think Taichi took it, even though that's not what Arata meant. And then on top of that, he says, we'll pass this on to Chihaya if she needs it. Okay, so the fact that Arata thought that Taichi was dating her explains why he's not been giving her the information himself. It explains the birthday text. It explains a lot of things. And I respect Arata for sending it to Taichi first, being like, hey, bro, I think you're dating our friend. I don't want to be that guy that's a homewrecker, so here's the stuff I want. If you want to tell her, go right ahead. You know, spread the word to her because I want her to know that I'm supporting her and all this. So the fact of the matter is that Arata's thought they've been dating this whole time, and so that's why he's been giving all that information to Taichi to pass on to Chihaya. Meanwhile, Taichi is not dating her, and it's just been a stab with a salted blade into his side every time it happens. It's just, because what does he give her? He opens up the little piece of paper, and what it is it's his cell phone. It says, Wataya Arata, and then it's also his, like, line email, I think. I'm pretty sure that it's his line email. I thought that she had his phone number already because she was texting him, but maybe she was just sending it to his email address this whole time, and now he's giving her his line number and his phone number. Maybe she was just emailing him the whole time, which is why he only saw it at work when he pulled it up, and he's like, oh, she sent me a bunch of emails. Maybe that was it. She was on her phone texting his email and didn't have his number. So, which we'll talk about Taichi getting onto him at the end, but man, what masochistic This author is masochistic to him. Taichi, just this beast of burden that he keeps seeing, this just constant reminder that Arata likes. And here's the thing, I don't even think Arata, at this moment, likes Chihaya in a romantic way. I think he still views her possibly as a friend. Now, if you told me, if the show tells me in 3 episodes that he romantically is interested in her, he just was holding back because he thought she was with Taichi and was being a gentleman about it, I would believe you. And now that he knows that Taichi and her aren't dating, he's going to be like, okay, the game's on. I can go after her then and flirt with her or whatever. If that ends up happening, I won't be surprised. But I kind of thought that maybe Arata and Chihaya were kind of more on the same plane in terms of they're friends. They want to see each other, but they haven't looked at each other in that way yet. I feel like Chihaya might have got bitten by the bug on the train and realized that maybe she does have a crush on Arata and she hadn't realized it yet. But it would be really funny if Taichi's had a crush on Chihaya. I should have brought Whiteboard Kun out. We'll do it next week. But Taichi has a crush on Chihaya. And Chihaya is obsessed with Shinobu and Arata, but she maybe just realized in this episode that she has a crush on Arata, but Arata does not know she has a crush on him, thought that she was dating Taichi, but now isn't. So what is he going to... So the ball essentially, after this episode, the ball is in Arata's court. Is he going to realize a crush on Chihaya as well, and it's going to be a full-on love triangle, or is he going to be kind of like the platonic middle ground and see who gets to him first? I don't know. But yeah, you definitely, even though we did not see it in the episode, you cannot tell me that Arata being there did not throw Taichi off. Especially after the whole number thing. I feel like we didn't get a moment inside Taichi's head, but the moment we saw that like shadowed version of himself hunched over, I'm like, he's in his own head. He's not thinking about the match and he's going to lose. And he does. He very much does. And so Chihaya shows up. Now, we see her on the train where she's like going to the tournament. And Tsutomu, he's like, you realize you're running away from your responsibilities from your tutor. He is cold. Tsutomu was a lot nicer than I would have been. He was a lot nicer. And she's like, the thing is, yes, Chihaya's running from her responsibilities. Yes, she deserves Tsutomu yelling at her about it. But then when you're like here, she's like, but what if Taichi loses and he's all alone? It's like a damn puppy dog. You're like, oh, well, hell, you peed on the floor, but I'm not mad at you. You're puppy. That's literally what it's like. It's like, oh, she was trying to think of Taichi. And the thing about it is that she's not viewing Taichi in a romantic sense yet. But she is viewing Taichi from the sense of, that's my friend, and I wouldn't want to be alone. If I was in a situation, I would want a friend there. So that's why she wanted to go see him, to be a friend. And then she finds him, and she's like, oh, what round is it? And he's like, I lost in the 3rd. And she's like, oh, God, not only did I come over here too late, and I missed the tournament. She's like, and the part that sucks is that Taichi, I don't think he stopped and realized that she came to see him because he's a damn masochist. I don't think he stopped and realized she came to see me because that's what she did. She came to support him and to be like, oh my gosh, I came to cheer you on and support you. I don't think he even was thinking about that. I think the moment he saw her, he's like, well, it just went from bad to worse. Now she's here and she can see Arata doing great and fawn over him, even though that's not what happens with her. You could expect that maybe Taichi's thinking of it. But I really wish that he would realize that she's supporting him too, even if it's not romantically. And then he's like, oh, Arata's here. Arata is playing. And on the same level, Taichi likes Arata as well, as a friend, if anything. And so I'm sure he's happy that he's there playing too, but it takes Taichi a little while to come around to that because his jealousy takes over in this moment for a hot second. And because his eyes are shaded and you can't exactly see them. And he's like, Arata's playing. And Chihaya's like, he's here? Really? All 3 of us? And of course, again, Taichi thinks that Chihaya likes him romantically. And whether she's just now realizing that she does or not, in this moment, she's just excited that he's there playing Karuda and that he'll get to play with them again, because that's been her goal this whole time. It is really sad that Taichi doesn't immediately follow her to go to watch. He like hangs back and wallows in his sorrow for a little bit longer. We do see that he won the 3 matches leading up to this. The first one by 8 cards, then by 7, then by 4, right? And when she goes in, he is playing Hiroshi, which what a match. I was like, ooh, okay. But the moment he slings that card and like the wind whips around her, the animation in this episode was amazing. The animation was fantastic. And Harada's like, oh, I'm feeling it today. And then he sees Taichi. I feel like Harada is rooting for Taichi and Chihaya. He's rooting for him. He wants Taichi to get the girl, but he also is like, you are a glutton for punishment. And poor Taichi, this mangaka likes to punish this man. Punishes him so much. She's like, not only does he not get to class A like he wanted, not only does Arata show up and give him his number to give to Chihaya, which we'll get to that, but then he's also like, feels like he's not going to get to be in the qualifier, which I don't think he's going to be in the qualifier, honestly. I don't think he is. I think he's going to watch and play in the B rank. And we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But I felt so bad for him. Now, I feel like a lot of it, though, is to build Taichi in such a way that when he does get to Class A rank, it's going to be so satisfying. And when he gets on a roll later on, he very much seems like he has the arc coming down the road. It might be season 2, it might be season 3, that all this pain and torture that Taichi is enduring, that's building up his character and evolving him and changing him, is all going to have a payoff down the road. But right now, it's going to suck. And we're just going to watch Taichi suffer a little bit, right? Meanwhile, Arata being described as soft water, as cool, soft water, I love it. I love that he always looks so calm. Even when he loses, he's calm and cool under pressure. He's not sweating. He's distinct. He's calm. He's not as strong as Shinobu, but he's been out of the game for a while. But I like the comparison of Shinobu like a needle, and then you have Arata that's like a wave, like a stream, a wave. I love it. They're both capable of piercing through things and making their way. Like water will force its way through anything, and a needle will cut through a lot of things. But it's interesting, right? I like the comparison between them. I love it. And Chihaya just watching him. It's great. Meanwhile, you have Chihaya is like having her aerial moment where it's like under the sea, like Under the Sea is playing, and she's just like, oh, I'm living right now. Down. Life is better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. Meanwhile, Taichi has drowned. In his angst and sorrow. And it's not funny, but it kind of is. And he's like, it's not Arata's fault. He's like, but. And then he stands beside Chihaya. And that's when she grabs his arm. And Taichi is drowning in his jealousy, in his angst, in his insecurities. And Chihaya, who is the frickin' ray of sunshine protagonist that she is, grabs his arm and melts that insecurity away by reminding him that today isn't about how each of them do alone. She's not even playing, but it's about the fact that Arata is playing again. And he's trying, and he's back in the game. And she's like, you told me that he would, and you were right. And her with tears in her eyes, being like, Taichi. She's like, it finally happened, Taichi. And then she's like, it happened. And she's so happy about it. And I thought for a moment that Arata was going to look up and see her grabbing his hand and thinking they were a couple, which she already thought they were a couple. So, right? Anybody else that would have looked at that shot of her grabbing his arm would have thought they were together. When instead, they're just like the most supportive friends right now. Arata's going to come back. And so we have to become stronger and wait for his return. And then, of course, Taichi has tears in his eyes because he realized he said that. And she's like, tears too. And I feel like in that moment he's crying because he's like, I was so caught up in him. Part of me didn't want to see him here because of everything he represents in terms of wedging himself in between Taichi and Chihaya. But he's like, but deep down, I'm celebrating. Like, Taichi can't help it. Arata's his friend, too. Arata's his friend. He loves him just as much as Chihaya does, even though it pisses him off. I'm like, I don't think that Taichi is a gay character by any means, but would he make an exception for Arata? He might. But anyway, even without the shipping context, just the three of them being best friends, and for him, I feel like it's such a moment for Taichi because the act of growing up and realizing like sexual desires and that you like someone in a romantic way, he kind of like immediately goes back to being like, what am I doing? This all goes back to the three of us being friends. And it's so much more than that. Oh, I love it. And then like writing on the shirts, he's back. Arata is back. Like, what a moment. And all three of them get to be there to celebrate that. I thought it was interesting. Hiroshi, because he's like, he's good. He's really good. And they're down to like the last card. And I love that Hiroshi, you kind of see, he's like, Arata is saying Hiroshi is good. Subaguchi Hiroshi-san from the Shiranami Society. He's like, one more card. I like that Arata's kind of being respectful and being like, man, this Hiroshi guy, he's pretty good. And meanwhile, Hiroshi is not even thinking about Arata. He's like, one more card. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? What's it going to be? What is it? What is it? Like, he is like desperate to get that card. And the luck of the draw. He's like, I can sense Dr. Harada behind him. Yeah, I love that. I love that Hiroshi has Harada's like essence and spirit behind him. Hiroshi's a catch. Of all the side characters, I know Pseudo is cool. I love Pseudo for the lulz. But Hiroshi? All right, I see you. Leaving a hovering mist above the grass and trees. And that's when the card is called out. And he goes to get it, and Hiroshi beats him. Nice. Okay. And he's like, well, shit. There went that. Okay. He's like, I got the card, but that was pure luck. I chose a card and moved before I heard the first syllable. That tells you something. The fact that Hiroshi got it on pure luck. That he went for, it was a 1 in 3 chance, and he went for the 1 in 3 chance, and he got it. That could have ended poorly if he'd picked the wrong card. I feel like that's also kind of a commentary about Taichi too. Not to bring this back to Taichi every time and how the mangaka is secretly masochistic against him. But I feel like it is. Because Taichi's whole thing is overthinking and analyzing to the point where he kind of like throws himself off. And he doesn't just use his intuition and take a chance. And Hiroshi won because he used his intuition and took a chance. So, you know, maybe that does pay off against Arata in the end. Yeah. And I love that Arata, like, takes a deep, calm breath after the match, and then he's immediately fired up. It's weird to see Arata, who's associated with water, like, has this boiling aura around him. And he's all fired up. I love to see Arata all fired up. Like a little hot bean. And then, yeah. And then he sees Taichi, who is crying. I love it. Hashtag men can cry. Hashtag healthy masculinity, y'all. Because he's so happy to see Arata. And no, he's like, you're too slow. And he does the bro fist bump into the chest. You know, like, you're too slow, bro. Bros before hoes. Taichi. Hiroshi is our ace. He's not going to lose to someone who hasn't played in 18 months. This is also a huge moment, too, because for the longest time, Taichi has felt like Arata was invincible and untouchable. And Arata just got 4th place to Hiroshi, who is one of the peers that Taichi and Chihaya play with all the time. So again, the more we see of Arata in this series, the less like this unreachable deity he is. Because back at the beginning of the season, Taichi was like, I'll never reach him. I can't face him. He's a Karuda god. He's unstoppable. And the more we've got with Arata's really good. But like Taichi says, he hasn't played in 18 months. So he's gotten rusty. He's human. He can lose. They all can lose. I mean, Shinobu is the one that's the most OP out of all of them now. And I'm assuming this master character is OP. But like, they're human. They can be beat. It just takes time and some wheedling. But yeah, some needling through. But I love that. I love how much it's come from the start of the season, you know? And then when he grabs his shoulder, and he's got the blushy face and tears in his eyes. And Arata's like, were you guys crying over me? And he's just like, okay. Like his little blush. It's so cute. And then he's like, oh, Chihaya. Meanwhile, Arata's like, oh my God, is she possessed? And Taichi's like, no, this is a typical Wednesday, actually. And she's like, why did he go for that card? How does he stay still when a dead card is read? Which she struggles with. What is his thinking process for sending the cards? I love that she doesn't change. I love that Chihaya never changed, girl. Keep on studying. She's writing in her notebook. And then she looks up and sees Arata. And Arata's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Now, when she grabbed the front of his shirt, am I the only one with a gutter mind? Am I the only one with a gutter mind? Was I the only one thinking like, girl, you grabbed very close to a region that's not appropriate, and HR would have had words? But I'm like, girl, grab his pant leg, I guess. But she's like, Arata, and she's like, sit down. And so he's like, okay. He sits down for her. And then she bows like she's bowing to Shinobu, which is so interesting. Because I think there's such a cool transition here. I also like how Shinobu's represented by the vines that tangle around. We've got the vines, we've got water. Pseudo is just like torture devices. But I love that she likens Arata to Shinobu. She's like, Arata was the one I thought was the all, end all, be all player to beat. And now that's Shinobu. That has changed a little bit. Her rival has changed a little bit. But she's still like fired up. And Shinobu does kind of look a little bit like Arata in that moment. Like they could be cousins. They could be long lost cousins, right? And Arata's like, oh. He's like, we aren't even playing and you're already fired up. I love it. I love that Arata's like, you're already ready to go, ready to play, aren't you? He's matured a lot in that aspect. I love that about Arata. It's super cute. And she's like, well, yes. Oh, I love it. And that shot where it's like the light coming through the forest and it's then with the Karuda cards, it's like them seeing each other again for the first time, really. Because the last time she saw him, she had been like passed out and was freaked out about not being able to play. It's so good. Meanwhile, Taichi's over here like, hey, I not to interrupt your montage of beautiful scenery, but, and I feel like that shot of her from the side profile is his view of her. And you know that Taichi thinks that she is obsessed with Arata and she likes him romantically. I know Taichi. You just know Taichi thinks that. But we, the audience, know that that's not exactly true, or it wasn't true up until this episode. And then meanwhile, before anything else happens, Chihaya gets interrupted by Kana, who, what was the ripping that gets ripped there? What does Kana rip? And yeah, it's the program. She's like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, you're here. And she's like, we all wanted to cheer for the president. And I like that. Is that her? Does she have glasses on? Is that supposed to be a disguise? That's so funny. But Satomu agreed to help you study. She's like, I'm sorry. So Arata's about to leave. He's like, I don't know these people. He's like, go get your reward and let's go. Which makes sense because they're from far away. Fukui was a drive. So like they want to get, I totally relate to that because the team that I coach, we're always like the furthest away from all the tournaments we go to, and all the other schools, they're all local to them. So they have like a 30-minute drive home and we've got like a 5-hour drive home. And as soon as awards are over, I'm like, let's go. I was like, we got to get on the road. And everybody else is just sticking around chit-chatting and talking. I'm like, we got to go. So I totally understand Arata's struggles. And so he's like, your cell phone number. I love this part. He's like, don't make me decide if she needs it or not. I love this moment because that's why, but like Taichi being the middleman has bugged me the whole season. I was like, why is he the middleman? Why is this happening? And for Taichi, it feels like a slap to the face because he's like, don't be a coward. Give her your contact information and your birthday wishes and everything yourself. Don't make me the middleman, because Taichi's being tortured by it because he likes her, and having to tell the girl you like that this guy you're afraid she's going to like even more than you is wishing her a happy birthday and saying all these things you're saying to her as well, but she's reacting to it. Like, it all makes sense, but then it all gets cleared up when Arata's like, oh, meanwhile, Chihaya is being drug away by Kana, has no clue this conversation's going on. And he's like, oh, well, I wasn't sure if you guys were a couple or not. He's like, I'm no longer here, so I didn't know if you two were a couple now. Which, to me, tells me that Arata thought that Taichi had a crush on Chihaya, and that Taichi was jealous of Arata. Because if you think about it, back in the beginning of the series with the whole glasses thing, that's an action that somebody jealous would do. And when they confronted each other and Taichi talked about being a coward and Arata's like, I know what that feels like. I know how I can relate. I feel like Arata has always thought that Taichi has a crush on her. And he's like, well, since I wasn't in your way, I thought that you two were together. Which is what Taichi would have liked to happen. But then Taichi, of course, because he's being a patron saint, is like, Taichi's like, what? So I feel like there's a lot of revelations in this episode, which, again, Whiteboard Coon, I'm so sorry I've left you out, my dear, but you shall return soon, I'm sure. But yeah, Taichi thought that Arata was torturing him by making him the middleman, when in reality, Arata was being respectful and being like, bro, I didn't want to like ease in and make you think I was trying to steal your girl, so I was giving you this stuff to tell her to like vet it through you to make sure it was okay. I hope that was cool. And Taichi's like, what? Meanwhile, Arata thought that Taichi and Chihaya were dating, and Taichi thought that Arata was trying to make a move on her and was being tortured by it, and they both were wrong. So yeah. And then, of course, Taichi could have said, I would like to date her, or I'm going to try and date her. He could have said that, but he knows that he's not ready for that. And then he's like, oh no, definitely not. And Arata's like, really? Taichi, why are you a masochist? Why do you do these things to yourself? You clearly want to date Chihaya. You clearly do. But you told Arata that you're definitely not dating, you're not interested. He's like, well, you're pretty sensitive about that stuff. And he's like, oh, well, Arata's like, I am a delicate little bean. And he's just like, kind of like blushes about that. Like, yeah, I'm kind of, maybe attracted to her. And Taichi's like, why can't they be a throuple? Why can't they be a throuple? Why can't we have a threesome? Why can't they be polygamous? Why can't we have nice things show? This is like the one main time I would be okay with a throuple being the main part. I'm fine with it. And he's like, I'm no longer here. Uh-huh. And so, yeah, that part about him not being there, Taichi's like, okay, so does Arata have a crush on her? And I just told him that we're not dating, so it's cool. Meanwhile, she's like, here, start from page 92 of the classical literature. She's like, well, that's not on the test. And then the tale of Genji for Lady Murasaki Shikibu. And she says, long last we meet. So the love poem she likens to Arata, which she kind of did before in the earlier episodes. Whenever I get to meet him, he has to leave right away. And I'm like, well, that's the plot, dear. And they're like, well, this is a poem about a girl who was her childhood friend, right? It fits perfectly. And they're like, it's a love poem. Mm-hmm. Even like the moon behind the clouds, that fits Arata really well. And I think at that moment she realizes either it's a fake out, because the mangaka likes doing that, because she starts to wonder, like, do I like Arata? Do I like him romantically? And before she can think too hard on it, she's like, and starts to do the swinging, and Kana's like, no Karuda on the train, no. And then she's like, it felt like it was water flowing around me. She's like, no swinging on the train. And she talks about it was like water flowing around me. I was gulping down soft water. Girl, are you thirsty? Is that what we are suggesting? You are thirsty and errata is a cold glass of water that will hydrate you, girl? So then she goes back and talks to Tsutomu. And Tsutomu took this very well. I like that Nishida has a little headband and he's like studying really hard. He's like, I've already mastered English in one day. But I like when she apologizes and Tsutomu has like, I can relate and respect Tsutomu's teacher tone. I can respect it a lot. And I like what is he writing there? He's writing there about online services, platforms, a social network service as a representation of each user, often a profile, links, and a variety of additional network services are web-based for users to interact over email. He has great handwriting, by the way. And instant messaging. I like that he says, Kana sent a message to let us know how Taichi did. And then he says, Taichi spends most of his time on Karuda, but he has the top test scores in our grade. I think this is really important because it says something very, very important about Taichi that's been unspoken throughout the episodes in this season. And that is that Taichi is a hard worker. And that seems rather natural and obvious, but he's one of those people that, yeah, he's practicing at all the matches with them, but they're all doing the same. But then he's going home and he's studying. Tsutomu's like, he is a well-balanced person who is doing everything he can to have his grades right, be good in Karuda. If he doesn't have good grades, he'll have to quit the club. And he loves the club, so he's not going to let his grades get down. And so Tsutomu's like, it kind of feels, Chihaya, if you're not trying with your grades, you're not respecting the club or the activity like Taichi is, and like the rest of us are. And that's important. And I like how he expresses this to her, and she kind of, her big doe, he can't look her in the face because she's the big doe eyes and little Puss in Boots face. I know that he'd be like, no. Before you can do the things you truly want to do, you gotta take care of this first. And she's like, I'm gonna study very hard. And I like the one lady's like, we close. This is me. This librarian, she is me in anime form. She has like the little bow tie shirt and like the hair bob. She's got like the side bangs. She is me just without glasses. And the Empress is like, go home. And she's like, that's not legal. I love it. Meanwhile, and then I love that she's like, I'll keep an eye on them. And Chihaya is practicing, but I love she has the blush on her face. Like she's maybe a little wee bit embarrassed about, leaving there today. But it worked out. She got to see Harada and Taichi. So then we have, meanwhile, Taichi and Harada and Hiroshi walking back. I like that Taichi's taller than all of them. He's like, I lost, but how could you lose by 11 cards? He's like, well, I got really cocky after I beat Wataya, and then, yep, just happened. He's like, I know my limits. And then Taichi's like, what was it like playing against Harada? And Hiroshi's like, I hated it. I really hated it. He was thinking through every move, but I couldn't tell what he was thinking. But having said that, Master Suo wouldn't bat an eye against him. So yeah. And Taichi's like, oh, Master. He's like, he mentioned the master while talking about a player in his first year of high school who just made Class A. Ooh. So I'm guessing this man in the green kimono with the brown colored hair, I'm guessing that Suo is the master and Shinobu is the queen. Maybe. And is this who Hiroshi... Yeah, I would love it if Hiroshi got more stories. I like Hiroshi a lot as a character. I want more of him. And this isn't just me simping on him. I want to know more about his character. I think he'd be a cool side one to like... Because Pseudo kind of has a rivalry against Shinobu, even though there's no chance, unfortunately for Pseudo, for him to become the queen. But he has a rivalry against Shinobu. I want this Suo and Hiroshi thing to get like some more airtime. Interesting. And he's like, I'm going this way. And so Taichi's like, I should have been watching them play, but I was too consumed by my jealousy and my angst. I should have watched from the beginning. And I think Harada's like, Taichi, you give yourself too hard of a time, you know? And he knows that Taichi is a hard worker. And he knows Taichi's been given the rough end of the stick by the mangaka in the hands of fate. And so I feel like when he says this, he's like, you could use the rule of winning 2 Class B tournaments. He's like, if we go by official standards, you should be Class A. He's like, this would break our society's rule. But, and of course, Huckleberry's growling below me. And then I like that they talk about the empty train passing. He's like, nobody, he says this to himself more than anything. He says, nobody can keep on going without some measure of reward. Now, I feel like what Harada is worried about is that Taichi is going to get burnt out. And that Taichi is going to keep trying to fight this battle and not get rewarded. And he feels bad for Taichi, and he knows Taichi's worked hard, and he wants Taichi to like get some just desserts. And he's like, you should take advantage of this rule so you can play and be able to be with those two and get what you want, because I think he's afraid that Taichi will. And he has good reason to believe that Taichi would quit, because the Taichi of earlier on in season 1, like kid Taichi, his parents were encouraging him to quit. If he didn't get first place, they were like, quit and find something new that you can excel at. And so Harada has known him since those days. And even though he knows Taichi's changed, I think a part of him worried that Taichi, because he wasn't getting first place, would give up. And he's like, you're too good to give up. And so he was offering him like an alternative to keep that from happening. But I love Taichi just laughs it off. And then this mangaka, he puts Taichi through the ringer and through hell, but then gives us these rewarding moments of that where he's like, oh, don't do that, doctor. He's like, that's not like you. And he's like, I'm not so much focused on making Class A. This is such an epic scene. I'm not so much focused on making Class A as I am focused on becoming someone who doesn't run away. I don't blame Harada for having this like mind-melting, like I've seen an ethereal light moment of, oh my God. Like in that moment, Harada joined Taichi's harem. In that moment. Just, because yeah, Taichi's character coming from square one in the start of this season of being a character that was like, if I can't be the best, if I can't beat Harada, if I can't be Class A and be the winner of these tournaments, I'm not going to play. To go from that to being a character who's like, I'm not going to be a coward anymore. I'm going to be a man, and I'm going to stand up and be someone who doesn't run away just because the going gets tough. I love Taichi. I can't decide if I'm rooting for Harada or Taichi to end up with Chihaya in the very end of this series, because that's when it's going to happen. But I just love his character, and I love what the mangaka gives you so much hell with him, but then they reward you with these moments. It's so damn good. Meanwhile, I love the light of the train reflecting on Taichi as he's having this moment of revelation, and then you cut to the one driver, the one guy that's like, aw, little Harada was nervous about meeting his old friends, but I guess it was worth the trip. He's sleeping it away in like the moonlight. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. And meanwhile, you have this like inner talk where it says drink. Gulp it all down. Ooh, I'm like, oh. I feel like that gulp it all down works on so many levels. You're talking about Taichi soaking in the moment, gulping down all the courage he can get to move forward and get Class A rank the way that he wants to, gulping it all down, savoring that cool, refreshing water of seeing Harada play and knowing your friend's back in the game and you got to do your part to match up with it, and then gulping down the sweet, refreshing water that has gotten you to the oasis of being in a desert without your friends and now you've seen them again. It works on so many levels for all three of them, and this episode was amazing, and it's one of my favorites of this season so far, and I did not walk into this episode tonight expecting to be moved and to have talked for over an hour about this damn episode. Oh my God. I thought this was going to be like a 20-minute conversation. I was like, Taichi's going to go to this tournament. It's going to be a thing. Chihayafuru had other plans. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this, my reacting, freaking out, and discussing. I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below. But yeah, so I guess the qualifier is probably going to be next. And we're going to have that for season 1. I may not be able to watch more than one episode at a time because I talk too much about this one episode. But anyway, in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm going to be back real soon with episode 21 of Chihayafuru. Peace!